Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our table. I am Stacy Blitz, and I am hosting today with Jana. In recent years, the Philadelphia restaurant scene has finally gotten due praise as one of the best in the country. In 2019, Forbes described the scene as a rose that grew from concrete. Travel and Leisure said Philadelphia might just be the best food city on the East Coast. So the Boomagenesis team, with Jana and me, we welcome you to our table. We've partnered with a fantastic group of people to create a conversation that brings the restaurant community together. We hope this gives you all an opportunity to share some insights about what's working, what might not be working so well in 2020, what resources are available, and give you a chance to ask some questions along the way. We have a few introductions. There is the team that brought us together today. There's Boomagenesis, led by Jana. She's been part of the Philadelphia restaurant scene for about 5 years now. She and her team offer cost-effective strategic design resources to businesses of all sizes, specializing in restaurants. This includes branding, menu design, websites, social media, and more. Jana's restaurant industry client list includes Maison 208, Red Bull, Cuba Libre, several pop-ups, The Bourse, and more. Her ability to build and maintain strong relationships with her clients is in large part what brought us here today. Next, we have Ben, who has been a great partner to us. Ben Fileccia is the Director of Operations and Strategy for the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. Ben has spent the last 18 years collaborating with and working in restaurants across the East Coast. He's opened 7 restaurants, managed both front and back of the house, and he is known for strategic improvements to modern hospitality practices. Ben's high-level, authentic, hands-on practices have brought him and the concepts he's worked with multiple accolades, including a Best of Philly award for general manager in 2014. Moderating our panel today is Michael Klein, a friend of mine. Michael is a Philadelphia Inquirer staff writer who has covered the Philadelphia area restaurant scene as a news beat since 1993. He started at the Inquirer as an editor in 1986 after working as a headline writer at the New York Post and editor at the Courier Post in South Jersey. And now for our panelists. We have council member Allan Domb. Allan brings almost 40 years of experience as an entrepreneur in the real estate industry. He has played an essential role in revitalizing Center City. He pursued public office to bring his voice and skill set to city government in order to guide decisions that can help Philadelphia reach its full potential as a first-class city. Next, we have several prominent Philadelphia restaurateurs joining us. We have Ellen Yin. Ellen is the owner of the famous High Street Hospitality Group. She was nominated for Outstanding Restaurateur by the James Beard Foundation in 2018 and 2019, and was the 2019 honoree of the Philadelphia chapter of, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Les Dames d'Escoffier International. We also have Khoran Horn. Khoran is the CEO of 812 Hospitality, chef founder of award-winning Strip Juice, and chef owner of the up-and-coming Guardhouse Cafe. He's also the founder of Black, a purpose-driven culinary collective that combines food, design, visual art, and education, championing dialogue and inclusion to stimulate a shift in society. We also have Teddy Sourias. Teddy owns Craft Concepts Group, which has 7 well-known restaurants and bars in the city, including the seasonal pop-up Tinsel and the newest addition, Sueño, a Day of the Dead themed pop-up that opened just this month. Also joining our table is Joanne Jordan. She is the co-founder of Food Shelter PR. Joanne brings 25 years of experience in the hospitality, corporate agency, and nonprofit areas. Her clients include PJW Restaurant Group, Iron Hill, and Akimero, Thirsty Dice, Boardroom Spirits, Chad's Ford Winery, and the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. So thank you everyone for joining us. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone, as Eric has, that everybody will be on mute, but as you have questions that you would like to include in the Q&A, you can just put them in the chat and we will get to as many as we can before the end of the session. And now, without further ado, I'm turning everything over to Michael Klein.
Well, hi everyone, and I'm Stacy, Jana. Thank you so much for the great intro. I want this to be a very good use of your time. I know that everybody's stressed both with time and with business and everything. So, of course, we'll save questions to the end, and then you'll get your chance. And I think we're going to go over a lot of different topics today. We're going to start with government. And we have Allan Domb here, City Councilman at large, and Allan has a special interest in the restaurant business. So I want to start out actually asking Allan a question. First of all, what can you talk about measures on the horizon that might be affecting the restaurant community? I mean, you have a little bit of insight here.
Right. Well, clearly, thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for having me today. Now, clearly, Michael, this pandemic has forced a lot of legislative and administrative work to be done in government. And when you look at the big picture of the economy, there's four categories that I look at. One is finance and insurance, one is home construction, one is restaurants, and one is hospitality. Home construction and finance have not missed a beat. They have basically same jobs they had 9 months ago. Restaurant industry is down 20%, hospitality is down 35%. So this whole goal of government has to be, how do we bring these industries back in a safe way? And so we still don't know when this virus will end. We're hoping it'll be soon. And we want to make sure that we can contain the spread. And as we sit here today, we're seeing more and more cases. But the good news is those cases that we're seeing are not as serious as the cases we saw in the beginning. So for the restaurant industry, we have to be very, very careful how we use these outdoor spaces that we're now enjoying. We have to make sure that none of this increase in the count is attributed to restaurants. That's very, very important. I can't stress that enough. So some of the potentials that we're looking at, Michael, could be coming up to the colder weather. And I know this weekend we experienced on Sunday 50-degree temperatures. I still saw people eating outside, which was great. We have to come up with weatherization methods for outdoors. We're right now at 50% of people indoors. Hopefully, if we can continue to stay safe, we can figure out how to maybe increase that number. Maybe we can increase a way to stay safe and open up bars with plastic shields in between customers. So we have to look at all those opportunities and try to help the restaurant industry. Okay. A few of my colleagues on council are talking about protections for staff that might potentially hurt a business' ability to plan, operate, and remain stable. Some are talking about, I know that the Pennsylvania Restaurant Association is talking about this and working on it. They're talking about how staff are laid off and brought back. And I think it's good for us to have all these different voices on council. And our goal is to become together. How do we figure out how to protect everyone and make sure that business can still survive through that smart restart? We continue to work with PRLA to be sure we're on top of every issue. I know PRLA has been doing a great job, by the way. For those of you on this call, I know Ben's on, but Melissa also, they are phenomenal in what they're doing statewide. So thank you to you guys, really. So, what I've come to the conclusion, I will share this with you. Restaurants for a city of Philadelphia, you should love this, Michael, because you cover restaurants, have become the anchors of every neighborhood. They're the anchor, whether it's 52nd and Market, Germantown Avenue, whether it's Center City, wherever it is, people are coming out to the restaurants. That's the anchor. And then they're going to other stores. So how important is it for the city of Philadelphia to make sure these restaurants are open and surviving? It is crucial in a smart way for us to do this. So I could keep talking about this subject, but I'll let you go to the next questions, Michael.
That's fine. Yeah, actually, I wanted to dovetail your answer with Ben. I want to talk about HB 2513, which the legislature failed to override basically, it didn't get passed because the legislature couldn't override Governor Wolf's veto of this bill that would have allowed seating at bars, for example. Ben, can you tell me what the next steps are here?
Sure. So if you're not familiar, House Bill 2513, we weren't asking for this moon and the stars here. We were just going back to the safe reopening standards that Governor Wolf had laid out originally, which includes 50% indoor seating with the use of face masks and social distancing, no seat, no service. But it also allowed for, as you said, bar seating with either barriers or social distance. It allowed indoor events to take place with a 50% capacity using, again, social distancing and all safety precautions. And it eliminated the mandate that you had to be served a meal with a cocktail. And the problem here in Philadelphia is without bar seating, without people safely sitting at bars, and I don't mean congregating, but sitting at bars and dining, most restaurants can't get to 50%. It's just impossible. And we see that all throughout the state. As far as the event piece goes, and I had a call with the mayor's office last week, by allowing 10% capacity for events is, in my mind, seriously detrimental to the health of Philadelphians. And the unintended consequence that we have seen is, and even the CDC director last Wednesday said that most of these spikes and most of these new cases are caused by small groups getting together, not in restaurants, not in hotels, not in event spaces, but by not allowing restaurants and hotels and event places to safely host these parties. We're seeing folks go rogue and having backyard parties and deck parties and indoor parties where there's nobody enforcing mask wearing or social distancing or no seat, no service. We didn't want to be put in the position where we have to enforce all these rules, but we absolutely will, because we've always been in the business of keeping our guests safe. So, yeah, so the governor vetoed House Bill 2513, even though we got extraordinary bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate. And we lost the override by 3 votes. And the next step is, we'll be looking at the folks that flipped on us and see how we can support the candidates running against them. And then after next week's election, we'll kind of go back to the drawing board and seeing what we can work out, working with bar seating, working to increase capacity in a safe way, trying to get rid of the mandates that, although they come from a good place, are not helping the safety or the well-being of any of us, frankly.
Yeah, I know I keep reading things like they quiz people who've had contracted COVID and they ask if they've been in a restaurant in the last 2 weeks. Well, they could have been in a lot of places. And a lot of people go to restaurants. I mean, is that a fair criterion or guideline or metric to be used?
I mean, I would like to see the contact tracing. I would like to follow the science. I would like to follow the data on that. And so far, there has been none. The questions posed in some of these surveys are really quite random. We've all been going out in some sense. It just, there's right now, there's just no correlation between spikes or COVID sharing and the restaurant community.
Right. I mean, I can go to the supermarket, I can go out to a department store or anywhere else, but if I have been to a restaurant even once in the last 2 weeks and they ask me if I contracted COVID, were you in a restaurant? And I would say yes, and they would say, aha, you're, well, maybe not. They would correlate my case to being, or they would equate it with a restaurant.
Yeah.
So,
and right now, when you're walking into these different stores and you're going to these places all over the Commonwealth, I mean, with the exception of hospitals, I don't see any other business raising the bar to the level that restaurants have, as far as it, as far as it concerns safety and keeping their guests safe and keeping their employees safe. I mean, it's just, there's so many great actors out there just doing the best they possibly can. You see the sanitation practices just through the roof. I mean, and this has been an industry that's always been concerned with the health of their employees and the health of their guests. So they've just been going above and beyond what they need to do just to show how well they can do it, and just so they can survive, not thrive, just survive.
Right. And we're going to get into that in the business section of our program. Thank you very much for all that. By the way, do you think the election is going to have any impact on any of this policy on a state level?
It's hard to say. I mean, right now, right now between Governor Wolf and Dr. Levine, they have been sued multiple times, and nothing has been, what they say is what goes right now, just like we see with Dr. Farley here in Philadelphia. So I don't know, I guess if we get enough seats in the House, we get that override vote come up again. I hope it's not too late.
Okay, Ben, thanks so much for this. Now let's get into winter. Even though it's the end of October, things are getting cooler. So I want to talk about winterizing and what restaurants are planning to do to make life bearable for outdoor dining. So Ellen, I want to turn this one over to you. You have several options, and what are you planning to do?
Well, we are serving indoor and outdoor at all our restaurants, and continuing to make sure that we emphasize that we are doing everything to keep people safe in both environments. In terms of winterizing our outdoor area, we are today starting to build out, a structure around the streetery at Fork to help make it feel a little bit more enclosed. We're probably going to apply for the electrical permit to build electrical heating into the structure. It'll have, an open area, so it'll follow all the rules, of course. But, I think that, this past week is a perfect example. I was really pleasantly surprised. I was expecting no one to be willing to sit outside. Of course we have heaters, and of course, we have our tent and umbrella up. But I was really expecting everyone to clear out, and all our restaurants, including a bar, which has very little shelter, were pleasantly, populated. So that was really great to see. But, we'll be building something for a kitchen as well, and, just working to try to get that. But I think the main thing is that we want to make sure that we're diversifying all revenue streams. So making sure that all our restaurants have alternatives for people who don't want to come out into the cold, and making sure that our takeout programs for all the restaurants are solid and in place, and that we have delivery and all that secured.
Okay, how about staff? I mean, are they, well, it's still not really that cold, but have they mentioned anything about, running out in the cold all the time or working in the cold?
No, not so much the cold, but I will say that I wear a shield when I'm in the restaurant, and it is uncomfortable if you're not used to wearing glasses or anything like that. It can be very disorienting. I'm a little clumsy, so I've broken more glasses than ever before. But it's a concern, and our staff are definitely, and rightfully so, worried about the increase in indoor dining, and whether the public will follow the rules. And our job as management is to support them and to make sure that our guests are following those guidelines.
That makes a lot of sense. So Teddy, you have a huge outdoor presence, especially in Center City, in the heart of Center City. What have you done?
Well, we'll start with Juniper Street. Juniper Street, we put at least 30 to 40 tables initially. They then made the space, they allowed more tables on with outdoor seating, which was huge for us, because we then added a blow-up television. So football, when finally came about, we were allowed to then project the game. Then I added a few more televisions, 70-inch televisions, put them everywhere, put tables. But the problem with Juniper Street is I won't be able to heat it, because now, every morning we have to have deliveries and trash pickups. So our permit starts in the afternoon and not in the morning, so I wouldn't be able to keep everything overnight. It's a challenge with the staff. Every day we have to take out all the tables and chairs, set them up. We have a measuring stick for 6 feet apart, of course, so we have that, makes it a little bit easier. But we now are transitioning into probably tents on 2 sides, so we can keep it with 6 people outside, and then propane heat, which is going to be hard to keep up with that many tables outside. We'll have to cut the tables in half and not be able to use our projector screen, just have personal televisions. Juniper Street, 12th Street and Sansom Street, where I have the newest Sueño and our pop-up Halloween bar, which will be transitioned into Christmas. We built those parklets, and overhead, we just got our permit and everything to heat them, so we have heat now. Expensive, but the not having to worry about propane tanks and storage and everything, just electric, and I don't know how temporary it's going to be. We had to invest the money. Sansom Street for Fitness Schools is next, but that's the only thing that's allowing us to stay in any kind of business over there, because our locations are not that large. We need that outdoor seating, so we're going with it, and we're just making sure that we get as many people as we can in those seats, but obviously safe.
Okay. When you say electric, are these the electric heaters that go on the ceiling part of the structure?
Exactly. So they'll hang.
Okay.
They hang down. And actually, we used them for the first time on Saturday night because it got pretty chilly at night, and they were perfect. Unfortunately, we can't enclose them totally, which we would be able to, keep the heat inside. We'll have to have two sides open, but at this point, it's better than nothing. I'm just worried about January.
You mean snow and wind?
Yeah,
other fun stuff.
Wind more than anything, because once it gets windy, heat just gets pushed right out, and it is what it is.
Well, Ellen was talking about alternate revenue streams. Do you have anything? You seem to be good at coming up with that kind of stuff. Extending your pop-ups and things like that. What are you planning to do when the cold winds of January blow? That must be a problem or something.
Well, like I said on Juniper Street, we are going to have personal tents and personal TVs and heaters. So we're going to allow people to rent out their section, I guess, for food and drink, and then have their own personal space. But again, I have to have multiple tents, break them down, and put them back up every single day, which is a burden on the staff. But they understand that it's not the way it used to be right now. We're just going to have to roll with the punches and do whatever it takes to stay in our business. Our pop-up, we do have plans for December, of course, when we turn into Christmas again. It's been challenging up till now because we can't have it as a sit-down bar restaurant. And even if we were at 50% for 1,100 square feet, we'd be able to put 4 people in there. So we do a walkthrough now, and we sell tickets and have cocktails and food coming out of the window that's connected to the building adjacent to it. So it's the only problem is now with the cold weather, that window, which is so large, won't be able to stay open at all times. The customers will freeze, the employees won't have it. We did get custom plexiglass to put in there with the sliding window. We're going to try it out when it finally comes next week and see how that goes. But right now, I think a lot of people are doing pop-ups. I've been doing them for a long time, and I think we're going to have to just go with it and just try new things and see what's going to stick.
Okay, that's good. Khoran, in terms of your winterizing effort, what are you planning to do?
So I think ours is a little bit of a different story, because my one location in Old City Stripped, we are a quick service restaurant. So our focus is really from a ticket time and also just getting people conveniently in and out. At this point at Strip, we're not really doing it in and out anymore, because we're doing window service from our window, just like right through the window, like an old school drive through, but it's a walk up.
Okay.
So for there, what our concern is in the winter, who's going to want to foot out and wait at a window for 10 minutes? So we have a push to do some advertising and to really, I hate to use this terminology, but train our customer to either call ahead or do a pickup online. And once they schedule it, it's a lot faster for them to be able to just walk up. Their order is already done. They pick it up and they roll. We have also seen our delivery traffic go up as well. So we're going to really push the delivery piece as well for our Old City location. And again, we could because we have a pretty wide sidewalk there. So we thought about doing an outdoor structure, but who's going to want to eat cold stuff outside in the winter? So it didn't really make sense to do it there. Now for our new location, which is a different concept of the guardhouse, which is coffee, breakfast, lunch, and brunch. The focus was we were supposed to open pre-COVID, and now that we're, I guess at this point, maybe 10 months removed from not being open, we're starting to feel a little bit the sense of urgency to get open and to start making some revenue. So the new cost of potential, we have a beautiful outdoor space there, but the new cost to tent and to put walls up and to put new heaters in is actually pretty significant on us for the fact that we're not open yet. So we also don't know who would want to kind of treat a coffee shop as an outdoor space as well. So we are kind of on the fence about that right now, to be honest. And what we're more so navigating is how do we make it convenient for our customer to get a quick coffee or a quick pastry or a quick breakfast or lunch item and have a no contact situation. So we're exploring right now a no contact pickup, which is right inside of our front door. And it'll be basically like a caviar pickup or a caviar window, but for actual guests. And their name is there. They've already paid. They can just come in and pick up. Again, as opposed to eating outside in the winter. So, I mean, and to give the real cost, you're talking probably all in about $20,000 to do the tent, the heat, and just really jazz it up with furniture. And to make it appeasing for the guests. And we just feel that cost, we don't know, we'll see, but we feel like the cost could maybe go to a different place and maybe train the customer.
So that place is at the old Frankfurt Arsenal, and it's the Arsenal Business Center.
Right.
How is business? I mean, are the businesses open and is it at full occupancy now?
So it isn't, and a big bulk of that the business was going to come from the 2 charter schools that are over there. So there's one charter school that's a K through 8, and then there's another that's 9 through 12, and they have all their faculty, and then they have their students, and we're all virtual. So we were banking on that pre-COVID, and now we have to transition a little bit to really getting the neighborhood to come into our facility. However, there are several other commercial businesses, Oat Foundry, the Soulful Project, which is an oatmeal company. There's a brewerage yeast company. Oatly is headquartered there now. So there's probably occupancy wise, maybe about 65 people. So while we would love to see every 65 every day, we're going to focus really on the Bridesburg neighborhood to, position ourselves as hopefully the best restaurant over in that location. So.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about we're going to get back. By the way, if you have questions, comments, we can save them to the end. Let's talk about the supply chain. And I know that a lot of people, especially in the beginning, were stuck with a lot of excess inventory. And Ellen, I was wondering, is that still an issue, or do you have any, solutions to that?
We didn't really have that problem because we started out with keeping High Street open. And so we were able to really focus on the takeout and delivery. As you probably know, we worked closely with Fuel the Fight, which is part of the World Central Kitchen, to try to get meals out to frontline workers. So, we really tried to keep High Street going as much as possible. So we really didn't have that inventory problem. We're continuing to work with groups like that to where everyone eats, et cetera, and just trying to move, keep the energy going, as much as maintaining, proper inventory levels as well, but really just keeping the energy of the business going. And that, I think for everybody, it's almost like trying to figure out who can survive all this and get to the other side. It's not about, it's not about making money right now. It's more for a lot of businesses that are doing primarily eat-in service, just trying to pivot or change our business model so that we can survive through the winter. I still think that people want to, at the end, want to celebrate and want to go out, but you know, how do you manage all that and just keep that alive?
Yeah, let me just, you know, it just occurred to me, your restaurant group and a lot of other restaurant groups are constantly being called on for, you know, catering jobs and basically pro bono work. Has that slowed down at all during the pandemic?
Well, that's why restaurants are so crucial to the, you know, to the revitalization of Philadelphia, because restaurants are full of people who just want to be hospitable and give. And so, you know, as much as, you know, probably my, you know, my bank account probably says, don't do it, I still want to be out there doing it. And it keeps us, you know, feeling like we're contributing, feeling like we're part of the community. And I think that that's an important role that restaurants play. They're the first people when something happens tragically that are out there trying to raise money for people. And, you know, I think that restaurateurs continue to, you know, so many people are doing so many things, from getting out the vote, you know, during the protests, trying to help, you know, just different communities who have been hit, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, that's a really great answer. Teddy, I'm going to go to you for this one, and then I'm going to ask Khoran the same question about menu creation. I mean, clearly, you're thinking about what you put out, you know, what you serve to people outside, but then there's the delivery piece. Are you, I don't know, making simpler dishes? Are you making dishes only that will travel well? I had a dinner last night that I had to drive 40 minutes to pick up, and it actually was fantastic. It was heated correctly from the start, and it was packaged right, and it actually ended up eating. It was almost as good as if I were in the restaurant. So, so what do you think, Teddy? What's your impressions of that? What are you doing differently?
So we have a barbecue place, and barbecue does travel pretty well. Initially, though, that's for takeout, but German food is a little bit different. Sausages and stuff, and a lot of the sauerkrauts are a lot of wet and everything. So what we did was we combined our brew menu and our tradesman's menu for sit down, eat in, and also even made it smaller for takeout. So we use one kitchen to minimize the staff. You know, all our places are next to each other. Same thing with U-Bahn. So we created one menu. We used it with QR, and simply you could take a picture of the QR code, and you see everything was organized as in like German food, American food. U-Bahn is more like, you know, comfort food. So it was one menu, but it told you where it came from. And, you know, we had to do this because, again, the staffing was going to become an issue. If I had 3 kitchens running, and on a Monday, if we have, you know, 30 covers, if it's a day a Saturday where it rains, we have the same issue. So we had to kind of go, you know, change the menu according to what we thought it would work. And it actually worked really well. The German food we did finally open up brew full, right about August. And it's still not the way what it was, but we had to still limit the menu because, again, spoilage. You want to make sure that the staff, we don't get overwhelmed in the kitchen, and food's got to come out fast. Like you said, Michael, you know, delivery, it was a big thing, especially in the beginning. So when we did a lot of the takeout from our window, and a lot of like caviar and everything, wanted to get it done quick, get it in, get it out. And we're doing pretty good. I mean, it's funny. People like the simpler food now because they want it faster. We're selling chicken fingers at tradesmen, and we never would have done that before. But it's good, and people like it. So we figure we're going to continue doing whatever it takes to you know, keep this rolling.
So how much do you think this is going to affect you know, down the road? Let's say the pandemic ends, and it will, of course. It will. Is this going to have long-term? I hate to use the word permanent because nothing is forever, but will it have a permanent impact?
Honestly, I think this is going to just make certain restaurateurs stronger. And I was always into restaurants, but bars, the nightlife was more into what I focused on. Now that I've learned so much about food, I mean, again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've learned way more than I've ever known before, ever seen before. And we are a full restaurant, as we were before, but bigger. We have never done this many covers as we have at Tradesman's ever. It was mostly focused on after 5 p.m. So for us, we're going to come out of this stronger. The nightlife will come back. The sports bar aspect will come back. People love sports. Of course, it's evident after a few Eagles games that we've seen. And whoever is, they say, only the strong ones survive, and that's true. I mean, that's what's going to happen. The ones that are still in this game will thrive. Like Alan said earlier, right now we have to try to survive. And it's not only about making money, it's about keeping your staff on board, keeping them happy, keeping morale up is probably the hardest thing right now. But, once this is all over, and it will be over, I agree with you, it has to. When it is, we're going to be just fine. We're all going to be doing great. And there'll be a lot less businesses. Unfortunately, that's not what we want. Because I have a couple places that aren't open right now either. So I feel that pain, my biggest place was not allowed to open, Uptown Beer Garden, because of COVID. And you would think because we had outdoor space, we'd be able to kill it there, but we were not able to open because of the high rise and Silver City in New York, they don't want us to open up. And I respect that because they're protecting,
So that was that wasn't because of city or state regulations. That was, okay.
Yeah. So Silver City, they own all the high rises, World Trade Centers. And they asked me to not open up. And at the time, it wasn't smart for me to open up anyway. And I respected them. And I was looking for more of the bigger picture, as opposed to let me try to make as much money as I can right now. And I didn't want to be, that tenant. So we do have plans for next year, which is great.
Okay. Khoran, what have you changed in your menus, or what have you seen? I mean, again, your food is simple to begin with. What are you doing differently now during the pandemic?
So for Stripped, it was a lot easier on us because if it's not bottled or in a bowl or in a blender, 3 Bs, I didn't do that on purpose. It's, that we don't sell it. So it was an easy transition for us there. However, for the Guardhouse's menu, it is completely being changed. We had a very decadent pancake that I was super excited for everybody to experience, but imagine getting the pancake to go. You've all had it, I'm sure, or everybody went to McDonald's drive-thru on a late night getting pancakes. Like, I know y'all did. So it's just not a good experience. And we have a lot of sandwiches. We're thinking, what does that look like to do to go? Do we wrap the bread individually and they have to build it? And what kind of experience is that? So we've actually had to make a lot of pivots in the Guardhouse menu to make it way more to go savvy. And we had some fried items that we had to take off just simply because we just don't want that customer experience to be, a bad one. But I did want to touch on some constraints that I've actually seen from a ordering and inventory standpoint.
Okay.
A few of our vendors told us we can only order on one day, and for us that really makes it a struggle, and we had to actually truncate our menu in Old City because of that. Because if we're ordering a lot of fresh ingredients, you give it 6 days and it's not the same as when you first got it. So I think though, for the vendors, that they actually started to realize, hey, we're in this fight too. So even though they had a constraint on drivers, I actually think I saw a salesman drive a truck, which is like mind blowing, right? It's mind blowing, but they did whatever it took to actually get that business back to what we know it to be, because they're in a struggle as well. And I think they were hemorrhaging money just like restaurants were. So that's my 2 cents there. As far as menu creation though, we are reinventing the wheel over at the Guardhouse. It is a lot different than we anticipated. But I think this will pass and we'll be back to normal and y'all be able to get the pancakes y'all want.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit here to design and marketing. And marketing, of course, is always drives a business. And I would like Jana to talk about the importance of marketing in this kind of environment.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and Joanne is probably also going to be able to speak to
Yeah.
this a bit too.
Going to do follow-ups with her.
Perfect. Yeah, so Teddy and I have actually been working together for many years, and this has been a rough transition to be going into this time right now. There's so much happening. There's a lot of craziness within week to week. Things change. You can't even plan out as much as you used to, especially at the beginning. And it's kind of gotten a little bit more consistent now, but there's always this moment of like, oh man, we're going to have to pivot yet again. But the cool thing is that I did want to offer a couple of cheaper or free resources that everyone can really benefit from as a general rule, just to sort of aid, because I know that there is a lot going on right now. I mean, obviously everyone has their own plans, but especially for smaller, restaurants or smaller mom and pops, like you don't really have access to people who are doing it for you. So a couple of things I wanted to mention is that there's always Canva, or Adobe Spark is also another one for anyone who does have access to the Adobe programs, because I know some restaurants do with like InDesign, etc. You can always do for like videos. Canva is a good one for that. You could use stuff like Boosted, Slice. Again, these are either really small or, free, depending on the moments and like the plans that you're getting, but smaller price points. You can also do things if you're sort of doing it yourself. Stuff from like the Noun Project is actually a free resource for icons. So you can get either cheap or free, depending on your usage. For a commercial, you should probably pay for them. They're like $2.99 a pop, though, as opposed to asking a designer to create them for you is actually a really good resource. You can also do things like go onto some really cool inspo sites for like, especially for HTML marketing or any email marketing that you might have. There's a resource called reallygoodemails.com. It gives you a wide array of some inspiration so that you can kind of create and do stuff along those lines, making it a little bit easier, perhaps, even if you just send it to your designer or to your marketing person, being able to be like, I want something kind of like this, to again take off some of the load and make it a little bit cheaper. And just as another thing, with Boomagenesis, we're actually working with an independent marketing consultant who's willing and able and offering sort of like a sliding scale opportunity for businesses if they want to have a consulting with their platforms, etc. Just to make sure that everyone's getting the best value, because there are ways to do QR. There's many ways to do a QR menu. There's many ways to do a website. There's many ways to do a lot of things. So between myself and a couple other people who have really welcomed the opportunity to help out the entire community, we're willing to sort of, again, work on a sliding scale basis. And if people want to reach out, they always can, because I can try to help them out with as much resources as possible, whether it be design, advertising for banners, social media, stuff like that, anything design oriented, I can totally help with. And then also either that or connect you with somebody who can, or work together to figure out what that looks like, even if it's just a conversation. And again, working on the sort of like smaller price points to whatever we can work with to kind of figure things out together. And Teddy can attest to how much I've been trying to do extra for him during this time. So yeah. Okay,
great. I know Joanne Jordan of Food Shelters on with us right now. You have this triage team. Do you want to talk about that for a minute or two?
Sure. Pretty much on March 14th, all I was getting were phone calls from PR people pretty much all over the country, a lot from Philadelphia. I was asked to be on many different groups. I had to be very selective. We banded together. A lot of people in Philadelphia have banded together, and we have sort of a triage group where we meet once a month, and we sort of exchange information. We do data dumps. My business partner and I have been writing crisis communications plans since March 15th, basically, doing statements for PRLA. And, we do a lot of crisis comms, and we have in the past, but they were skills that weren't really honed very well until they needed to be, which was right away. So a lot of PR people are in that spot right now. So we share those crisis comm plans with some of the people in Philadelphia so they could sort of help their clients out and the best way they know how. what we do every month also is we talk about our clients, talk about the industry at large, talk about the media and what we think they need and what's going to resonate with them. And, just basically try to get out as much information, factual information, as quickly as we can to help people like you, because we know you need it desperately. And then the next day it changes, so you have to rewrite it anyway. But we've really been trying to band together to try and help our clients, help the community, and basically help the press as well, because they're also suffering. I have to be honest.
All right, present company included. So, okay. Thank you very much for that. Alan, can we just pop back to you for a minute? I know people are always talking about the legislation, and you wanted to make a comment about the legislation extension.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So, the two bills we introduced were the passed were the sidewalk and streetery bills. I'm told there's over 700 restaurants that have engaged in those, which is great to bring the economy back. And let me just say this as a preface to what we do. We look at every resident, every business, every one of you on this call as our partners in the city of Philadelphia. Your success is our success. And when you're successful, the city's successful. So that's how we view this. We introduced legislation a month or so ago to extend till the end of December of 2021, those two bills, sidewalks and streets. It passed out of committee. It should get voted on, I'm hoping, this coming Thursday in council. I think this coming Thursday gets voted on, and hopefully that'll pass. What I'd like to do in the next few months is put together a bill to make it permanent. I think this is phenomenal for the city. I think it's something that differentiates urban areas and cities. So I'm hoping that'll happen. So that's the general overview. But I also wanted to mention, Michael, to everyone on this call, our best ideas come from you, the restaurateurs. When you have ideas that you think could help the industry, help the city, please let us know, because you have the best ideas. You're in the industry. You know what's going on. As a legislator, we don't know as well as you do. You know how to make things happen in a safe way. And I will say this, I heard Ben talk about it. We are all so proud of all the restaurateurs and the precautions you're all taking to make sure that the public is safe. It's amazing. It's just amazing to me, and can't speak highly enough about all of you. So thank you. And that's all I wanted to mention, Michael. Thanks.
Thank you. By the way, what's the best way to reach out to you? I know people, you're the probably the most accessible council person. So
best way is my personal email, which is simply Domb, D-O-M-B, at Allan Domb, ALLANDOMB.com. I also want to mention, because we've heard this from some people, that some of our restaurant owners have been receiving violations or tickets from the city on different issues. And please bring that to our attention, and we'll see what we can do to try to help. We can't guarantee it, but I can guarantee you we'll try to help you get that resolved in a friendlier way. We've had a conversation with Streets and L&I that in this pandemic, we shouldn't be fining people. We should be working with them and trying to show them the ropes and guiding them. This is not a time to be fining people.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful. So let's talk about the PPP loan, which has become a really hot topic. Teddy, can I ask you, did you accept any?
So we did accept it. We accepted for all the whatever we could have. With the smaller locations, it got depleted with 2 months rent, because obviously it is what it is. With the larger one, we did get some staffing out of it. We opened up immediately after we received the funds. We started takeout, and takeout was okay, but we're not a takeout restaurant. We do serve takeout, but we weren't set up that way. So I was paying enough to the staff members to get off of their unemployment to make it worth them, and to staff an entire kitchen staff. And the PPP got depleted so fast, which we were expecting anyway, because we only thought initially we only had, 8 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So when they extended it, I kind of shot myself in the foot prior, trying to deplete it fast, because with paying rent and paying my staff excessively in the beginning, which I don't regret, because I did help my staff out, and a lot of them I saw who was there for me, after all these years, and then that did come off of unemployment, because I had to beg some staff members to come back initially because they were doing so well. And I'm sure that was the problem so many people, we still have, We can get into that later, but
Yeah.
it was depleted fast, and we really need another PPP, and I'm sure everybody here would agree. But especially now with the new rules on being able to spend it and the timelines and everything, we know better on how to allocate that money. And, for electric bills still come in, water, gas still comes in. Where tenants still, some of them were in the properties, but where we're tenants, the larger properties, they don't want to work with us. They want to get their money. And I understand it because, everybody has to pay, but we had to, spend the majority of it for rent.
Okay. Are you finding, are you in the market to look to see what rents are doing? I mean, are they going down or are they staying the same?
I look every single day, and I get a lot of brokers reaching out to me it's amazing how many things are for rent right now. And honestly, the industry has not changed that much. Price per square foot has pretty much stuck to, well, off the bat. I mean, I haven't gone into deep negotiations yet. Some very cool properties are on the market right now, which I know were probably already on the market or going to be on the market prior to COVID. But a lot of the landlords expect to still get the same rents, and as they deserve to, because it will all come back. But for me right now to make a deal with rent like that, not knowing, not having any certainty in the near future, I can't sign a $100 per square foot lease right now, even though some of the properties look so outstanding and I would love to have them and have great visions for some of them. But I think like somebody said earlier, I think we just have to try to not looking at the big picture of making money now. Well, it'd be nice to make money, but it's trying to survive, and that's what we're going to go with. Not next year, we'll figure out ways to make more money with additional locations.
Right. Okay, Ellen, do you want to talk about PPP? Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I agree with Teddy that another round of PPP is necessary, especially for small operators who maybe weren't able to get PPP the first time, or, and the extension of 8 to 24 weeks. I was also in the same boat as Teddy, where I received PPP money early. And so I really wasn't able to use it necessarily the best way that I could, because nobody would have known. Or we were all begging for it, but I wanted to use it as quickly as possible. The PPP enabled me to maintain my my rental agreements. I mean, I'm sure many of you know that we relocated from High Street because we were not able to negotiate a rent deal. I wish I could say that I was as optimistic as Teddy, but I do think that I mean, before the pandemic, there were a lot of vacancies, especially, I mean, in Old City, to be quite honest. There were a lot of vacancies on Market Street. I saw a property across the street from me be vacant, and the one next door to me for 2 years. I do think that it is going to, that there is going to have to be some market adjustment. And, I think that with the uncertainty of how long the recovery is going to take, that creative landlords who can, and of course, everybody's situation is different. If you have a mortgage, you have a mortgage, and they don't look at non-fixed rent that the same way. But I do think that landlords who can work with restaurants who are getting back and recovering, and who are flexible with their lease terms, potentially could be very successful.
Okay. Real quick question for you, Ellen. You have of course, your destination restaurant. How do you get locals, since the tourist traffic is pretty much down? How do you get locals to come in?
Well, it's interesting because A Kitchen has definitely been a great respite for the Rittenhouse Square neighborhood. We've seen lots of our regular customers come back. There's a lot of residential folks in the area who, want to support restaurants and want to be there. High Street has turned into only takeout and delivery, and we've had a tremendous amount of support for that concept. Fork is much more difficult because it has been a destination restaurant since probably 1998, and our job is to figure out how can we get our product to our customers. And if there's a large number of people who are from the suburbs, we have to change our mentality of thinking that they're going to come to us. We have to figure out how to get to them. So that's a major project that we're just trying to figure out how to just change our thinking around.
Okay. Just thinking maybe doing a pop-up in the burbs or something like that. Like,
well, pop-ups are really hard because you have to have enough people. And, as Patty was saying, it's very hard. I mean, beyond the unemployment component, there is genuinely concern by our employees about whether or not they feel safe to come back to work or not. And it's very difficult.
You know what, let's, we have about 4 or so more minutes before we flip over into Q&A land, but let's talk about staffing. I mean, from a Khoran view, tell me about your challenges or successes in getting staff.
For sure. With one of my locations, because we didn't have to stay closed for too long, we were able to retain a lot of our employees. And to mention the PPP, very simply put, we took PPP, we used it very quickly because we thought we had to. And we were able to service our rent. And we've been negotiating with I've been negotiating with my landlord to just make sure that we're on good terms and how are they, just to really get a feel for where they are in the situation. Because I think we're all in it together instead of being treated like, we're separate entities. We're all in business and hopefully we all get it. So they've been very acquiesced to just, hearing these kinds of conversations and keeping it open. But as far as staff is concerned, I actually had another location in Wilmington, Delaware, and inside of a food hall. And that food hall closed from February to late September. And as a result, I couldn't make it make sense to come back. But one big part of it, not one employee was going to come back. And
was it because they got new jobs or because?
Oh no, it was absolutely because of unemployment. So, I get it. Like, it makes sense. But that was one of the weighing factors in us not being able to survive down there. Is I was like, I'm just going to run it by myself,
Mm-hmm.
So because we weren't able to source employees who knew the game, it wasn't like I was going to hire new ones and train them on everything in less than a month to get back open. And in terms of our new location, we had a restaurant manager who is now just on the West Coast, and he's like, yeah, I'm not coming back East Coast anytime soon. I think he's also just living the cush life right now. He's traveling. His Instagram is very lovely. But as a result, we have to now find out how to get this restaurant staffed, and he was a big part of it. So it is what it is. It's a part of navigating the game, and staffing is not an easy task right now, at least in my world. Maybe it is for someone else, but
yeah. Let me actually ask either. I'm thinking like Teddy or Ellen, have you had real successes here in maintaining staff or getting staff?
Ellie, you want to go first, or because I've had a real problem. I still have a problem. We're on Craigslist. We're on Monster. We're on every platform to try to find staff. A lot of my staff that's come back is still with us. Trying to find good quality staff is one if the biggest challenge, if not the biggest challenge right now, because you don't want your service to fail. I mean, our kitchen staff is still good. We sustain all our kitchen staff. We found a new chef at one of my other locations. It's front of house, and I think the biggest issue is bartenders can't make money now. So how can you? I bartended for 12 years. That's how I started everything from bartending. I used to sell supplements. That's how we opened up my first place, my second place, my third place. So I understand their struggle as an employee, and why would they want to come back if they can make more money on unemployment? I mean, I would go back because I can't just sit around. But I see some of my staff members, like Khoran was saying, traveling the country. Like we're working so hard to make these businesses work, and they're in Colorado relaxing, and I need them back. We need these good staff members, and we're just they're not out there. They're not. And if we could find, I'm thinking that when everything gets better, the ones that are still around that still want to be in this industry, I think we could do well with, you know, bringing them all together and building our staff the way it was. But right now, I just don't want to just settle for people. And I think we've been settling for some employees, and it's unfortunate.
Oh, okay. Just before we wrap this part of the program up, I wanted to get back to Alan, who wanted to talk from a landlord perspective of you know, restaurant tenant situation.
Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to mention, sometimes when life gives us lemons, you can make lemonade. So this is an opportunity for the restaurateurs who are renting their spaces. And I realize that in some cases, like Ellen, in your case, you probably like at AKA that can't be done, but where there's a single store that you're renting the restaurant, you should have a conversation with the owner about buying the real estate, because interest rates are at a 50-year low right now, low. And in many cases, the cost of owning the property is going to be less than renting it. And there may be several owners right now afraid that the capital gains tax laws may change. There might be a tremendous opportunity for them to sell the property to you, and then you become the owner of the real estate, and you can really control your destiny. I just think it's something that all of you should look at. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. All right. There are so many other topics we could get into, but I do respect your time. If you have any, of course, questions on other topics, you can throw them in. So we're going to open this up in the chat right now. Does anybody have any questions? You can either direct it at the panel or individual panelists, however you want to work it. You know, just or raise your hand. Just screw this up. Of course, I just blanked out my screen. Ah, here we go. I'm back. Okay. You don't
Michael,
want me to sing? Okay.
Michael, I will say I didn't see questions come through too much in the chat. There were some great comments.
Yes, I did see them too.
I saw from Lisa Freeline, if she is still on, she was concerned about the supply of outdoor heating units. I wonder if anybody has had any creative ways they've found them. I know even, you know, in the home environment, it's getting harder to find heating supplies.
Well, actually, I mean, Teddy, you were sort of the king of the outdoor heater.
Yeah.
When did you start buying them?
Okay, so I started literally in August, or it was July or August, and they were still about $125 a piece for the propane ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you find them, you can still get them. By the way, you can still get them on Amazon, believe it or not, because and there's some sites that you can still get them at, but they're price gouging now, and I understand why wouldn't they at this point. I do have a contact that has, I think, 30 plus coming in on November 2nd. So you guys can reach out to me, Teddy at ccgphl.com, and I can get you in contact with the person. They are $300 plus. I'm not making a penny. I'm trying to help out two people if you guys need them.
So
but
these are heaters that fell off a truck? No, they're not.
Hey, listen, I don't know. As long as we can heat the streets, right? I don't know. I don't ask questions. But the electric heaters are still available as well. It's just a lot harder to get, you know, the electrical permit to get everything run, and then it takes time, and then hoping your panel is large enough. But you know, there's challenges with propane as well. With propane, you have to have the cages. You have to get daily deliveries because, you know, they go so quickly. If you had a full max for 48,000 BTUs or 50,000 BTUs, you're going to deplete a tank within 6 hours. So, I mean, we have them, the cost, if we have to get 20 heaters a day, do the math, is it worth it? I mean, we have to, it is what it is right now. We're just going to try to, you know, keep people warm, and we're going to be offering blankets as well soon, which is another cost, custom blankets. But again, I'm looking at the big picture here. So we brand, yeah.
Yeah, that's also an interesting point. If somebody wants to bring up a question about social media and marketing and that kind of thing, we have some really qualified people on the panel to talk about that. Like I would throw out to you, and I mean, we're still waiting for some questions here, but who here has stepped up his PR? Or, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be grammatical here. Who here has stepped up their social media game? Teddy, you've got a really good
one of my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Teddy, I know that we've been doing a lot more than he's ever really done. Like, I've jumped in with one of his operations directors, Alexis, and she and I have been just going really hard at getting them on a good content strategy and trying to be posting a lot. And I know that there's a lot of like back and forth with, whether open or closed, etc. I know that it's a lot harder to communicate as quickly as we need to, and it's hard because there's just so many messages coming in through social media right now. I'm sure everyone can sort of account for that. Joanne, I'd love to hear more about what you've experienced with your clients.
Well, every single one of our clients is hitting social media extremely hard, some better than others. But I do have to say that the climate, and because of the platforms that you're working with, and because of the climate that you're in, it's so unpredictable to plan. And a lot of them are worried about, and under our council, we're, worried about sort of sending mixed messages or not knowing what they're talking about or not being as buttoned up. Or, some of our clients like Boardroom Spirits, for instance, they have to plan months and months and months out for they're ready to drink cocktails in a bottle type thing. And they don't even know if they can get the bottles, or, again, with the supply chain issues that they're facing. They also make hand sanitizer too. So they have to really dedicate a large portion of their time and staff and resources that they don't have because they didn't get a lot of PPP money, to doing those things. But in terms of social, they're knocking it out of the park. And, digital and engagement marketing is also a very critical tool that a lot of my clients and a lot of other PR people have been using, even insofar as trying to get in touch with their employee base and their staff, because internally, from an internal communication standpoint, there are a lot of problems with even letting people become aware of, what the plans are for the next month or so. So, some of them have really taken a stance on using MailChimp or Constant Contact, and, we'll do templates or just very rote templates for them. But, again, some of those staff may or may not be around anymore. You may not have the same email address. So it's really, really a challenge, both from an internal and an external standpoint. But social is extrememely critical, and they're all using it.
Yeah, I would also like to mention that, even doing just like banner ads, et cetera. I mean, I know that like retargeting, et cetera, as far as the advertising realm goes, has been super helpful too for people when they're like, there's the good old Googling, like what's available, or like outdoor seating in Philadelphia, and being able to pepper those inquiries with ads to remind people that there are certain places open. Because I know that that's been an issue up and down the various landscape of Center City, is who is working, who is operating, who is not, when are they, and all that good stuff. So I know that that's also a good option, an opportunity for people, along with obviously email marketing and social media.
Yeah, but as a consumer of like I'm always looking for information like closings, changes of hours, changes of concept and things. And I found that Instagram is just an absolute godsend. If God forbid this pandemic had happened before Instagram, I think we'd be in I mean, from a communication standpoint, we'd be in really hot water. It would be because Instagram allows you the restaurateur, to reach out directly to the audience and the potential customers, bypass people like me. I mean, I'm being honest here now that you can, if I want to know if a restaurant is open, I just go to Instagram, and I'm assuming that they have their hours. If not on the Instagram profile, there's a link there to get me to the information that I need. Too often, though, I find out that, especially new restaurants, they don't set them up. That's sort of an afterthought, and I think that is really dangerous practice. I think that initially you have to really get the word out clearly to your potential customers that what you're doing, what you're up to.
I think that that's a danger for any size business, let alone, in restaurants in particular, right? Where you might think that social media is not as important as it is. And in this day and age, especially with the pandemic and everything else, I mean, advertising and social media is how you reach your customers one-to-one, especially if you're a business to consumer situation. So you have to be able to be online, you have to be able to be responding to things, and you have to be able to, answer questions. Because I know a lot of people even just working with Teddy and all of his locations and knowing what's going on in their DMs, like, people are asking questions about all sorts of things, and we try to do what we can to reach all of them, but it just comes in like a waterfall sometimes. So, it is very important to make sure that people are aware of how important that stuff is. Branding is important. The way that you look on your website is important. All of those things are super, super, super important for any business, definitely in restaurants and definitely right now.
Okay. Let me just jump really quick back with Alan. What else can the city do to help?
That's an open question really for everyone on this call.
Okay, then
So I just want to get everybody's focus on this. Like, if there was issues, you gotta let us know what they are. I just saw a really good question, Mike, you should ask in the chat room about the holiday events, and I'll give you my 2 cents on that question. Maybe we ought to, I think there's a lot of people looking for ways of celebrating holidays remotely. So maybe it's sending 50 dinners to the employees of a company instead of having them in the location, or something along those lines. Focus on that question.
Okay, so just to expand upon Nick's question, Nick Quinn asked, I'm assuming that many of the restaurants who banked on these next few months in terms of holiday and catering parties. So for many of these parties that help cover the slower months of January, February, do you think there are going to be a large rate of additional closings come Q1, maybe the beginning of Q2? Ellen, you've been around. What do you think?
Well, I never thought about it until this year, but somebody told me that in New York City, when we were looking for spaces in New York, that come January, there were always a lot of closings because everybody wants to get through the holidays. I was just thinking about New Year's Eve, and New Year's Eve represents, typically a restaurant, especially sit-down restaurants will clear, I would say, 1 week of revenue from New Year's Eve because you're going to be closed for the next 7 days. I don't even know what New Year's Eve is going to look like in Philadelphia this year. I mean, I agree with what you were just, what Alan was just saying about celebrations and holidays and things like that. We had good success with during graduations of people wanting to send, these celebration boxes out. But come New Year's Eve, everybody's used to being, maybe it won't matter because people like to go outside and see the fireworks. But having dinner in a, upscale restaurant, I just don't see happening. So it will be very interesting what happens first quarter. But I do think that there are going to be additional closures.
That's really sobering.
Don't reopen.
And Michael, I got some 2 cents there because we're actually doing something at Guardhouse because we're not open at night. We will be positioning, and it's not gonna be something that is like sold across the world where we're trying to really just get business with this. But we're small enough where we can say, hey, if 15 people who are all together and you're all COVID free want to come in and dine with us, we'll do a one service for you at nighttime. And we've all seen it where people are kind of just completely tired of being in the house or not being able to go out or enjoy, themselves in a fine dining environment. That if restaurants can just come down a little bit on what it takes to just run that operations, we all know what it costs to run a restaurant at night. But if you cut down on your labor and cut down on your some expenditures as far as food are concerned or things of that nature, you can sell these one-off parties, to just generate a little bit more revenue. So that's one thing we'll be doing at the Guardhouse is we'll be offering kind of like a pop-up private experience where there'll be 3 people on staff to, take care of this party of 15 or 20. Again, who are all in their own bubble and who all know each other, who are comfortable with eating next to each other. Now, Alan, maybe you want to comment on this. I don't know how legal that is, but yeah, what are your thoughts there?
I have to look into it. I couldn't give you an answer right now. I have to let you know.
All right, cool, fantastic.
Yeah, can you imagine being an L&I inspector on New Year's Eve going out? I mean, I know they're out, and I remember, so last year, 2 years ago, that somebody got busted for a huge, I mean, it was totally illegal, even by pre-COVID standards, and got nailed by, and actually shut down. Nah, I can't remember which one it was. But they're out. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of repercussions there'll be. And, you know, again, this is, you know, it's all conjecture at this point. So can we segue to yet another really depressing topic? Okay. What happens if there's another shutdown? What happens if, oh my God, the look on Teddy's face was, yeah. If they decide that, you know, the cases are spiking and of course it's all the restaurant's fault, and they decide to either shut down or go or cut back on occupancy, what happens, Teddy?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to reopen for takeout because it was a total loss for me. What will I do? I don't know. I try to put that question out of my mind because I honestly could not. I couldn't answer it. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to answer that. I mean, maybe move to Greece, where I'm from. I don't know. I was the first to board up when the initial initial shutdown happened. I kind of got a lot of heat for it from people because I was blightening the city. But you know, right after everything with the protests and everything, everybody was like, "Oh, good job! You did it in time, and nothing happened to any of your places." I don't think that I don't believe we'll have another shutdown. I hope I'm right. But I know that I won't open for takeout for any of my restaurants just because it just won't be worth it for me. A lot of restaurants do well with it. I'm not knocking takeout. It was great for a lot of people. But I think I put myself in more of a hole. I also was doing a larger construction job. During that, I was building lower level of my speakeasy. And I thought that it was going to be a 2-week shutdown. So I continued doing the construction and I just, you know, feeding the contractor's money. Of course, there was a period where I was not allowed to because there was a construction shutdown, but it didn't last long. And I recently have stopped altogether and it's a half built out space. So I won't be continuing that, even though I have the permit, I'm ready to go to continue and finish. So I know now that I will just wait for everything to be better before I continue to fund projects and pay staff, which I shouldn't I won't be able to do.
Okay. Ellen, do you want to?
Well, I certainly hope that there won't be another shutdown. I think that we as the hospitality industry, we're doing everything we can to, you know, obviously maintain safety. But, you know, in March, when all this went down, our bakery was actually selling more bread than it ever had before. And that made me feel like, well, this is something that is essential and people need to be able to eat. And, you know, we were working with Giordano on their neighborhood box and whatnot. So I don't think that if there was a shutdown, I certainly don't think that I would keep the restaurants that are primarily focused on, you know, on-site dining open. But I think that I would feel even more strongly that it's a service that people really appreciate. And I would continue to, you know, try to keep it going. We also have a lot more information on how to keep our staff safe. I remember, like, you know, right after the opening, every time I came home from work, I would just take a hot shower because I just was like, I have to, like, you know, feel better about myself. But I do think that we know how to, you know, what to do and how to keep things safe.
Okay. Does anybody want to add anything to this? We have a couple more minutes for questions.
And Michael, I'll add something to it.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I will say this: as a city, if we, you know, have a few incidences of problems in restaurants, we should not punish all the actors, only the bad ones. And we need to really get my colleagues and everyone else focused on that. It should be if there's, you know, thousands of restaurants and 10 have issues, then we go after the 10, but not to make rules for everybody. Because what I'm seeing really from a lot of the restaurateurs is you're all doing a great job. You're really very careful. And I know there's been a few violations, but not very many. So that's something from the city perspective I will push.
I want to say something about that because I think that, one of the challenges for the staff is, besides the ownership, but it is very difficult to explain the policies to our guests often, especially those who are visiting from outside the city, who may be from areas even just outside the city boundary where the laws are a little bit different. And that is one of the most difficult things for our staff to have to deal with is, enforcing the mask, especially inside. And, I give kudos to all our service staff throughout the city because we count on them to help us enforce it, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, who wouldn't know? I think there's a mask guidelines everywhere. So who wouldn't wear a mask? I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is how can the public be better informed about complying with these guidelines? I mean, because ultimately it falls on the restaurateur. I mean, if there's some, yes, some restaurateurs are or actually bar owners are lax, and they sometimes will allow things to go on, but ultimately it's really the public that's misbehaving a lot of the times. So how do you inform the public that, you have to follow these guidelines, otherwise it's going to ruin it for everybody?
Well, I think it's very simple. If I can comment, it should be a zero tolerance policy, and money is not more important than health, especially for my own family at home, which is ultimately where it will go. And that's how I always internalize it. And I think it's very important that you are explaining that to your staff. Like your health, your staff's health is a direct reflection of myself. So we have to have a zero tolerance policy, point blank period. I am not bashful to say, yo, dude, over the nose. Like and you have to position it to everybody. If they're not comfortable having a conversation, it's completely okay to come get me, manager, whomever, but zero tolerance is it. I mean, it's black and white, pun intended.
I agree with you. I think that we use everything that we possibly can to make sure that people know, from our reservation system to the minute they arrive, telling them the procedures, to putting it on our QR menus, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, sitting inside, there's so many people who don't really understand that they're supposed to be wearing a mask at all times, except when they're actually taking a bite. They're not supposed to be just taking their mask off and acting like they're outside. So that's, that is a challenge. And, especially when you have a larger staff, not everybody is comfortable, and you do need to make sure that your staff feel comfortable knowing that the ownership and management are behind them.
That's a really interesting point because, not every staff, all the staff people I know of, the front of the house people, know the importance of masking and being safe and all that. But, you get a belligerent patron who's doesn't want to comply. How far does a staff person, like a waiter, have to go? That face shield doesn't protect you from a lot of things.
We had to call the police once.
You did?
Just
what
once?
Happened? Oh, wow.
Work. This woman came in by herself. She refused to leave, and then she made it about every other issue out there, and we finally were like, listen, there's no bill for your dinner, so you just have to leave because we're not comfortable having you here.
Did she finally leave? Without the police?
Yeah, she finally left, but I came out and I basically just kind of kept moving her to the door. So
you're tough. I know that. Teddy, clearly you've encountered this, Teddy.
It's probably every single weekend. I've had drinks thrown at my staff members through the window. I've had almost a physical altercation this past Saturday during the Penn State game, where we had 4 separate groups of. They made 4 reservations for obviously 6 per table outside because we can't. And they would go to each other's table, which we don't allow because that goes to 7. And right. We can't look the other way. We're right in the middle. So it's not healthy. It's not right. So we have security on all day long. 2 security members just walking back and forth, making sure that that's not happening. And every time we would turn our backs, there'd be a seventh person walking to the table, you know, and just, I get it. They're trying to have fun. They're watching their game. They're big Penn State fans, but it's not right. We can't do it. And if we do it for one person, we do it for everybody. And it's not part of the guidelines. So we had an altercation, actually. Luckily, it didn't get physical, but it almost did. And, you know, we have to then kick out 24 people on a Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, it becomes our fault as a restaurant. I'm sure the Yelp reviews are going to go through the roof because, you know, 24 people are upset. And it's not only that, it's disappointing because we did whatever we were supposed to do and we look like the bad guy here, but I can't break the rules, especially, you know, now the way everything's going on with the spikes. We want to keep this thing going. We want this restaurant to you know, to survive. And if we start breaking rules now, what's going to happen in 3 months, you know? So, you know, security, we just have to keep security on and pay them, you know?
That's really troubling. So real quick, now there's an 11 p.m. Last call.
Yep.
Is that, how onerous is that as a business owner?
Is that a question for me? Because oh man, it kills us. 11 p.m. is, if we can go till 2 a.m. with the current guidelines, or especially when it was warmer, our business would probably be double. Cutting when people are excited and they're finally having fun again, they're out and they're enjoying themselves, and the food thing on the table actually helps us. I mean, I don't want that to, we could not have food on the table, whatever, that's fine, but we actually push food now more so than just drinks. So it's not that big of a deal. But closing at 11 p.m., last call at 10:55 or 10:50, whatever it is that we're doing, it's tough because we have to get everybody out. Then they're enjoying themselves. It's not even midnight yet, and we're keeping everybody out, and they're going somewhere. They're, you know, and it's hard to stomach because we thrived on business post 11 p.m. You know, if that, at least that went till 2 a.m. I think with bar seating, I would be 6 feet apart is fine. Let's keep everybody safe. But I don't understand that rule. I don't get that. It would save all of us here.
Okay. I think we're about at our time, the time bell here. I haven't heard it ring, but does anybody on the panel want to add anything? I know we have a couple more questions here. Don't think we have time for them though. Alan.
Yeah, just two quick comments. One is, I find it helpful as a patron of restaurants that when I sit at the table, there's printed instructions about COVID that explains everything. Even when the server comes over, you're supposed to, if you don't have your mask on, put the mask on. I find that very helpful if we could do that across the board. I think that's a great idea. And two, I saw in the chat room, Michael, real quickly, someone asked about percentage rent, lower base rent than percentage rent. I think it's absolutely happening. I'd say it's for the first 2 years. The base rent would be much lower and tied to a realistic percentage. I think that's going to happen across the board.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel?
I just wanted to say once again, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again one more. This has been a really great and informative chat, at least even for me, to be able to hear all these amazing people say such wonderful things and be able to give so much information out. And I know that this will be super helpful to people who aren't just watching the live chat, the live version, but also for those later. So again, to each and every one of you, Michael, Khoran, Teddy, Stacy, Ellen, Joanne, Ben, and Alan. I mean, just thank you so much for doing this. It's been really just helpful, I think, not only to everywhere, like at least me, but everyone on this, and then, you know, to those who will eventually watch it again. So thank you.
Okay. I want to thank everybody. Stacy, you want to wrap this one up?
Just to say thank you, everyone, for coming, for participating. We appreciate you taking out some time out of your day to join us, and we hope you have a great week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a million, everyone.
Bye all. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.